Welcome to Real Estate Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters, sharing proven strategies to help you build a better business today. And here is your host, Keith Doherty.
Hello and welcome to this episode of our show. This is your host, Keith Doherty. Today our special guest is top real estate agent Phillipa Criswell of Decker, Bullock, Sotheby's International Realty, based out of Tiburon, California. Knowledgeable, understanding, and people-oriented, Phillipa has achieved great success in the real estate industry. She received her real estate license in 2003, but her love for the business started much earlier, purchasing land and building a home in Belvedere in 1975, a process she loved. Phillipa is ePro certified, has received a prestigious 5-star award in 2014 and 15, and was profiled in Top Agent magazine in 2005. Phillipa, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's nice to be here. I'm looking forward to answering questions about my business and about myself, and I look forward to this interview.
Absolutely. We're really glad to have you here. And I guess if we could kind of start with, what led you into real estate? Was it something you always knew you wanted to do, or did you maybe kind of stumble into it?
No, I wasn't. I mean, I've always been interested in design, even as a child, and always interested in the performing arts. And I can remember doing concerts at home with my parents and sort of dragging tables and chairs and making stages in our home and performing, and I enjoyed that. And then subsequently, my parents moved overseas, and we lived in many different homes, neighborhoods, and I always found it fun moving into a new home. I enjoyed that, and just, seeing some of them were gorgeous homes, others not so gorgeous. So that was, and then as you mentioned in your introduction, I built a home in 1975 in Belvedere in California, and I really, really loved that. And I enjoyed the whole design process. And so, and at that time, we were approached by various real estate agents to purchase our home. We didn't sell it until a few years later, but it was just interesting to me. That's sort of how I started to see the real estate business as somewhat interesting. And subsequently, in the 80s, I sold and leased homes and worked with various real estate agents. So I started to get a whole feel for the business. And so it was more that I wouldn't say I stumbled into it, I probably backed into it more than anything. But it was a gradual evolution. And I'm really pleased that I've done it, and I continue to enjoy it a lot.
Excellent. And what personal attributes, traits, or qualities do you think have most contributed to your success, and how do you think you developed those?
Well, I was an ER nurse for many years. In fact, when I was building my home, I was an ER nurse. And my nursing background, you have to be attentive, perceptive, a good listener, because you're listening to ill patients and trying to figure out what's going on with them. And certainly in the emergency room, you had to really respond quickly because there were life-threatening things often going on. And, that definitely nursing helped me in a lot of those areas. And I often laugh because I think the sticker shock of prices in the area that I do business in is, people don't realize how expensive it is to live here. And I said, well, if anything goes wrong, I can always start an IV when they have, when they react, to the price of homes. But anyway, I would say nursing definitely had a lot to do with my success in real estate.
Excellent. And do you think maybe you could give us some specific examples of when, you use these traits and they played a role in your path towards success?
Well, I mean, it's just, reading. Number one, I have good relationships with other agents. I think that's really important because the other agents are people that you do business with and co-workers. I've earned their respect. Plus, you have to, sometimes even before you get into contract, you get a lot of documents to review, And you can often save people time and money by reviewing these documents. I'll give you an example. In this area that I work in, there was something called a midden, and I didn't know what a midden was, and so I investigated it. This was a property someone was interested in purchasing. Anyway, it turns out that a midden was an Indian, at least in this area, an Indian burial ground. And what I found out prior to the buyer, I could tell the buyer, it had to sort of be, if you wanted to dig into the foundations or anything like that on this property, it had to be more of an archaeological dig, and that's something that has to be done by hand, and that can be expensive. Anyway, it was good for the buyer to know ahead of time, that that's what they were getting into. And unless I'd sort of done a bit of exploratory work to figure out what that was, they could have bought the house and not known what they were getting into. So I think they're the kinds of things that, I do for my clients, and like preliminary title reports. You have to review things sometimes before you actually get into contract, and I'm pretty good at that, just to give them a heads up about things.
Yeah, absolutely. That seems like that would be something I'd want to know, especially like you said, with what you can and can't do, especially in that digging situation.
Right.
So obviously, in your time and the path that you've kind of taken as you built your business, probably everything hasn't been smooth sailing. It seems like that people always maybe come across different things to slow them down. So maybe what are some of the major adversities and trials that you've had to overcome to achieve your goals?
Well, I would not say it had major adversities or trials, but I think what happens when you first start in the business, it's difficult to gain traction. People know you're in the business, and they're concerned about how much business you've done. And like in where I am, the town of Tiburon's in Marin County, Northern California, and it's one of the most expensive places to live. Therefore, it's very competitive amongst real estate agents for the business. And I think customers want to know you're in the business for the long haul. It's not just a hobby. Some agents are just sort of hobbyists, but, that I'm a full-time realtor, and I'm in the business, for as long as I can keep on doing it. And I think that's something people want to see, plus proven results, that if you get, your listings sell, or that your buyers, are successful and purchase the property and they're very happy once they're in the property. And if you can start to prove that, which I have, I think, that is what you need to do. So not major adversities, but certainly it took a while for me to get my business off the ground. It was not slam dunk. I had to be very persistent. Yeah.
Excellent. So kind of looking forward, I guess, from this point on, what do you think your vision is for your career, say, over the next 5 years?
Well, I want to continue to grow my business. That's number one. I think clients are becoming more and more educated about the housing market through the internet. They can get a lot of information about houses, size of houses, when it was last sold, tax records. So, they come to you more educated about the house that they're interested in. But, there's nothing, you still have to have the boots on the ground real estate agent. You can't, because there's no way of knowing. Sometimes they can't tell if the home's, built sort of very close to a freeway or what's next door to it, what the neighbourhood is like. It doesn't always give them that information, and an educated real estate agent that knows the area can, definitely help them there. And a picture isn't always worth 1,000 words. Sometimes the homes are not as good as the pictures present. So I think, like technology, you've got to keep up with new technology. That's changing all the time. Zillow wasn't around when I started. So keeping one step ahead of technology and knowing what your competitors are doing, I think the companies here in Marin County, I'm aware of what other companies are doing in terms of marketing, and within my company, they're very open to new ideas, and if I saw something that looked terrific about marketing, I could say to, my management, look, this is what they're doing, and they're open to new ideas, which is good. So all that, there's a lot of things that I would, to continue to grow my business. It's always shifting, and you just have to be on top of it. Yeah.
Absolutely, and I think you kind of touched on a little bit of this, but if we could kind of maybe look at this more specifically, what do you feel the best way that you actually market yourself as a real estate professional is, so that you can have that continual growth?
Well, in my area, word of mouth, personal referrals, they still dominate. I think that's true for a lot of agents, but maybe not so much in, say, the city of San Francisco, where you can go on Yelp and look up different agents. But here, and I'll give you an example. My most recent, I have a listing right now, and that was a result of a walk-in to the office. I mean, that's very old-fashioned, someone walking into the real estate. So, and there's a local newspaper in my area, and a county-wide magazine, and they're print publications, but people read those papers, and they look and see who's doing business. And then there is the internet. I advertise on the internet. I have a website. Anyway, but that is well, as I said, print advertising, my website. I usually send out a postcard to a sort of an area around the home for just listed or just sold. I do that. I've sent out specific letters to neighbourhoods. If I have a buyer that really wants to be in a certain neighbourhood, I will send out a letter just saying I'm interested in representing my buyer, not representing them to sell their home, but I do have an interested buyer in that neighbourhood. So all those avenues I use and will continue to use. Print and sending out mailers isn't, it might sound old-fashioned, but it still works.
Excellent. And from I think a lot of times that people have maybe some misconceptions about real estate agents.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like the barrier to entry is rather easy. I mean,
mm-hmm.
Obviously there's still some education and some usually a licensing, but it seems
mm-hmm.
like that people seem to think that they can just jump right into the pool, pretty quickly. But what do you think the biggest misconception or myth people have about working with real estate agents?
Well, the real estate agent just sort of sits back, signs the listing, and they sign the listing and then sit back and wait for a buyer to come, and that's really far from the truth. You have to be up on the local market, so that means actually going and looking at properties in your market, and that's in my market. It's done twice a week, so I spend a couple of days a week just going around looking at properties. And it's also, you have to continue education. I do courses. I also, as I say, prior to making offers or anything, I'm reading all the disclosures on a property. There's all this background work that goes in. It's not just taking a listing, and sitting back and that's it. You spend hours doing a lot of paperwork. Not just paperwork. I don't mean shuffling papers. I mean reading reports, reading contracts, making sure that things are done in a timely manner, So there's all that background work that goes into making a successful real estate agent.
Excellent. And this kind of a hypothetical I like to ask some of the people that come on our show here is, let's say you get a call from a family member in another state and they want to sell their home.
Mm-hmm.
What advice would you give them about how to select an agent that could best serve their needs? Kind of like how you take care of your people. How would you advise them to select a proper person that could help them?
Well, we have a good in my company. We have a good networking system. So I would I might ask my manager if, for referral. I would call and talk to 2 or 3 agents in that area. I have some other agents that I might ask if they knew of someone in that area. So regardless of what name I was given as a referral, I would call that person. I would call 2 or 3 or 4 of them and sort of talk to them myself and see if they would be a good fit for my relative or friend. Not everybody works well with everybody, and, so I would talk to them and find out a little bit about their business, how they work, and then I'd make a recommendation. I might also recommend to my friend or relative, who have they noticed in the neighbourhood, who seems to sell properties in that neighbourhood. If they gave me their name, then I would call them again. I would call that person and see what I thought of them. So I'd do a bit of vetting before I, just handed them off to somebody.
Excellent. And let's say somebody wants to find out more about you and how you can help them. What's the best way that they can get more information about you?
Well, they can go on my website and they can see just a little bit about me, and they can call me, and I'd love to talk to them. I mean, that's the other way. They can just get to know me. They can get to meet me, see what I bring to the table, and they can also, on my website, there are testimonials as to, how I work with buyers and sellers. They can look at that if they wanted to. I could give them the name of buyers or sellers that I've worked with, and they could talk to them. So, that is the, best. I would do all of those things if that's what they wanted to do.
Excellent. Well, we want to obviously thank you for taking time out of your schedule to come here today and to share your business experience with all of our listeners. Now, if anybody listening wants to find out more about Phillipa, you can visit her site. We'll actually have a link below this interview, so you'll be able to click on that. We'll also get any other contact information that she had. She mentioned her number, so we'll get that and potentially an email address, and we'll put that below this listing. So Phillipa, thank you again for taking time out of your schedule and coming here today with us.
Okay, you're very welcome. My pleasure.
All right, everybody, until our next show, have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to Real Estate Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading real estate industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at realestateinnovatorsradio.com today.